This is Wise Up on Air talking about the media pool and digging in now to a new feature that's part of Beta 2 called Similar Sound Search. Étienne, take it away.
All right, so I'm going to try and give a little demo of my sound design prowess, which I've had better success now that we've got the media pool in there, I think at least. And yeah, so the idea is we're going to build a submarine ambience atmosphere environment with some events going on. And yeah, so we're gonna I basically prepared just a couple little helper containers in Wise for me. I've got this blend container. Oh, let's switch over to the designer view. So the media pool is down here now. And yeah, so I've got this blend container here, which will let me just kind of like mix together the sounds that I import. I've got this one-shot random position thing, which is gonna like play a random sample in the container at a random position around us. So if you're listening with headphones, you might get a bit of panning. If you're on another device, it'll might sound a little similar, regardless of where it is, but hopefully you've got a bit of a hi-fi setup going on. So yeah, just to demonstrate that really quick, we can go into our audio search and search for a bonk or something. So yeah, one thing I want to mention is the first time you do a similar sound search, there's a little bit of warm up that happens. So if you've got a ton of files here, we've got about 70,000, 66,000 files. It might take a moment to warm up, but after it's warmed up, the search is quite fast. But I think in beta 2, if you have a lot of files, the first time you search, just give it a second because it might surprise you if you give it the time. Yeah, so here I've got a bonk. Great. I can drop that in here, and right. Oh, that's over to my right. May or may not be still center field for you, depending on our stream setup.
Can we pause a little bit?
Yeah.
So bonk is nowhere in the file name or in the metadata. It's just a description of
Yeah.
your sound.
So if I search for bonk in file names, the closest thing we have is Bonanza. Because, yeah, so maybe I'll give a quick little overview of the kind of different stages of search. So yeah, the first stage is really this searching in your index fields. And this is kind of the fastest way to search because we basically have a list of all the words that are in those fields, and we can just go straight from those words to the files that match them. And it also is a little bit more fuzzy in that, yeah, we'll match if I type bon, right? I get a decent match. Everything that starts with those three letters will kind of show up somewhere in here. Bone, bonnet, things like that. And if I make a typo, say I really wanted that bonanza sound, but I type bonana, we have a little bit of fuzziness in there because we're kind of searching for parts of those words. So I get a low score here, which I'll go into eventually. Yeah, and then basically this lets you kind of quickly search through whatever information might be in the metadata fields you want to search in. And then that next level, which Bernard was showing earlier, where we can apply filters. So I can say filter, create a filter for this metadata field. So now it's really going to only show files that have exactly this string in their metadata. And that means that in order to do that, we've basically taken a quick look at all of the files in the databases and applied that filter to them. But if I first do, Bonanza, now we kind of combine these two. We've got the set of files that match Bona, and then the set of files that pass this criteria, and then you're seeing the intersection of those two results. And then because we didn't think that was quite enough, what we're going to show now is similarity search, which is a third step in searching. And I think kind of lets you explore in a completely different way and kind of take a different angle at finding sounds. So let's get started building this submarine. So yeah, so I've got this one-shot random position, going to play sounds occasionally. I've got this little one-shot with silence, so it's just kind of going to wait for a little bit and then play the sound so we can kind of have things appear in the sound field and our mix. So the first thing we want to do is, just get a bed down, some sort of base layer for our submarine. So I can search for submarine ambience. And now how you spell ambience may or may not be the same as me. But yeah, and one thing I also want to mention is we're currently searching in what is most of Strata. So we've got about 60,000 files in here. And ironically, that's so ironic, we don't have the submersion pack on this computer, which would probably come in handy, but at the same time, it lets us show, what can we make without something that would probably make our lives a lot easier. So right, so we've got this submarine ambience, and we've got a couple files, and they have a score. And this score is currently a little bit hard to interpret, but mainly what it's doing is it's ranking the files in order of their similarity to whatever you wrote here. So our first sound, some kind of like fan engine noise, and then we've got a weird kind of rattling zombie sound, which, I wouldn't expect to be there, but this thing kind of can surprise you like that. It's a bit of an I'm feeling lucky button occasionally, but then we've got something else here, and then we've got, other sorts of maybe drones. But one thing that I think is unique to this search functionality is we can combine this kind of, abstract similarity search with hard concrete filters. So I know that I want to make a bed, which means I need like a long looping sound. So I can add a filter on the duration of my samples and say I want my samples to be, at least 10 seconds long. So now I've got a combination of all my files filtered down, only the files longer than 10 seconds, and they're now ranked by their similarity to this concept of a submarine ambience. So now I've got my jet engine again, I've got this drone, I've got some other kind of drone, a plane coming by, some bubbles. So I think I've got some elements here that I can work with. So let's say we add the drone, the engine, and the bubbles, and drop them into our mix here. So if I now play this, I've got a mix of all of them. Now I know that most of the people watching could do a much better job than me, but I'm going to do my best to make these fit together a little bit better. So the first thing we're going to do is just make sure they're all looping. And now, yeah, let's play these different sounds. So this could be like, I think I kind of see it as almost like a fan sound, like some sort of motor fan that I'm hearing. So I might pitch it up a bit. This space station is decent, but it's also a little too high frequency. Let's pitch it down a bit. And then that's the volume that I'm controlling actually. And then the bubbles are a little bit too present. Ideally they're on the outside of the submarine, I think. Now right next to me, and then maybe we can low pass them. So, maybe they're coming through a wall. Add a little bit of low pass to this one as well. Maybe it's not right there with us. All right, so we've got a little bed, an ambience going. So, I could perhaps convince you that you're somewhere underwater. But, sound design is about conveying emotion. So what I want to give you is an unsettling feeling where, maybe this isn't the most recent submarine that was built. Perhaps it was acquired in some weird trade deal. And yeah, so let's try and make this submarine a little bit more creepy, or, feel like it's breaking down a bit. So I want to add something like, yeah, we're not going for a happy-go-lucky yellow submarine here, Damien. This is in the grim darkness of the subterranean. So yeah, so I want to add like a sound of, this metal, there's intense pressure on this vehicle. Let's add some creaking metal. So here we've got some samples that are similar to my description of creaking metal. So this is pulling stuff from the physics database. So we have these sounds of metal being bent. So, they've got this thing, but they don't have like a ton of weight to them. And, this is a massive submarine. It should sound much bigger. So I could either, pitch it down and maybe get something that I want, but I can also demonstrate our next feature, which is similar sound search as opposed to audio description search. So I can create a filter by right-clicking in this menu. And now I have created a filter which ranks all of my sounds based on their similarity to this sound. And these things can be combined, right? So these sounds are not only rated by their similarity to this sound, they're also rated by their similarity to this description. Let's say I don't really need this anymore. I found a sound that's indicative, so we can find the sound that we use as our reference, and then the things that are most similar to it. And then I can maybe go a bit further because this isn't that large, right? It's not what I'm looking for. So let's try and describe the characteristics of the sound we want. So we want it to be large, right? And then we'll see how this affects the result. So now it's giving me a completely different set of files. And so this is, arguably bigger, perhaps not really what I wanted. We've got our same sample back here, another thing here, maybe some new stuff down there. But let's try and, because this is basically an abstracting the meaning from these words, whatever you type will affect the result without kind of destroying anything. So you can really experiment and see if you can find something new just by trying to modulate your description. So, I want this to be really big. Let's see what we get now. So now we've got a different sample, which is, not quite big enough. Let's see what we got here. Oops, skipped over that one, but and then this. Perhaps a little too big. So yeah, but what I have found is that I found some samples that are interesting, and I think another thing to highlight with this type of searching is it can help you learn, how the database is structured. Because with Strata, we took a lot of effort in labeling everything with UCS standards and making sure that the names of these files is meaningful and easily searchable. So I now know that there is this metal massive bending loop category of sounds in my collection. So I can just switch over to my traditional search, and I can leave these filters active or not, and then I can just type metal massive and see what I have. So I can notice here that the second keyword is the size of the object. So I know I can also just filter by large like this. And now I've got my large metal samples that are still kind of ordered based on their similarity to these original queries. So we've got this guy. Yeah. So let's just drop that into our mix and loop it, as we must do. And now rolling metal in the background. Nice. Another layer. Yeah, and then so the last thing I'm going to try and add to this scene is, I'm going to keep on going, a little bit more anxiety. Maybe some electrical panels are failing. So I want to add some electrical sparks. So here I'm still in, traditional metadata search mode because I'm pretty sure we have electric things in Strata. So I can look for electric sparks, and I've got 85. So that's a decent pool. Let's give them a listen. Yeah, that's a little aggressive, I find. This one's a little not exactly what I'm looking for either. Now we're talking. Yeah, so I like these urban ones. So I can take that and then find similar, and it's going to re-rank again my files based on this filter and their similarity to this audio. Yeah, so I can grab a few of these and pop them into my one-shot container here, which I can move into my mix and make it loop. Every once in a while, we'll just get a bit of silence, and then here we go. So if we listen to our mix again, if I did this correctly, all right. Whoops, it's the bonk. The bonk was still in the container. So we get rid of the bonk from here. And there we go. Ding, ding, ding. That's a 5-second delay. Oh, there we go. Some sparks off in the distance somewhere. Great.
Everything's better with sparks.
It definitely adds. Yeah. So, and then the last thing I might want to do is to really reinforce that this is a submarine, we can add the good old classic sonar ping. So let's search for a good old sonar ping, and there are none in our metadata. But if we go for descriptions, perhaps, no, yes. So yeah, first hit wasn't perfect, but the next one is pretty much exactly what I had in mind. So I can drop that into this guy again, get rid of the bonk and company, put it in here, and then slap that in the mix with a unique name. And we are almost in business. Submarine. And then, if you're a sound designer, you'd be able to make this much more cohesive. So yeah, that's kind of a simple walkthrough of building an environment using without having to leave Wwise, which is something that you couldn't really do before without the media pool. You'd have to use there's a lot of great tools that can help you search for sounds, but I think there's definitely something cool about being able to do it right here in Wwise.